Hello, I'm Erik.
Charlie, nice to meet you.
Hi, Deborah, how are you?
Good.
You don't have to wear the headphones if you don't want to?
We decided, yeah.
It makes us feel like we're on the radio.
All right, we'll just start off with that. For Daredevil Season 2, Charlie Cox and Deborah and Woll, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Got it there. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah.
I can see by the smiles on your face here that you actually enjoy this project and what you do.
Yeah.
It's horrible when you work on something. And I've seen actors in comics where they do something for whatever reason. They're coming around, they're just promoting it because they have to. And you know they're not really behind the project or they felt it wasn't their best work. But you two are here, you're looking at things online, you're having a good time, smiles ear to ear.
Deborah, tell us what you were making us watch just now.
It's 10 minutes of Jeff Goldblum laughing in Jurassic Park. And it's just the most wonderful thing. You play it over and over again, and it just makes me giggle for forever.
You see his that apartment website that he works for?
Yeah.
He did the Super Bowl ad where they're lifting a piano up the side of a building and he's playing Moving On Up from the Jeffersons while it's going on. It's like, what is Jeff Goldblum doing?
Guy, yeah.
It's
I didn't see
amazing.
that.
Yeah, you should look for it. It's really weird, but it was a legitimate ad that they spent millions of dollars just to play, I think twice during the Super Bowl. So that was almost like $6 million.
Wow.
He's great on Portlandia, if you ever watch us do his little guest spots there.
Or whenever he's on Fallon. I think one time when Fallon was still doing late night, he came on and did Biz Markie's Just a Friend as a classical pianist.
Oh, my God.
And then all of a sudden the Roots kick in and Biz Markie comes out and now they're all just doing the whole song together. Jeff can do it all. But we're not here for Jeff. We're here about
Jeff
you
Goldblum.
guys here. So Daredevil Season 2, did you think the reaction from Season 1 was going to be what it was? I mean, going into Daredevil, everyone was kind of like, Marvel's on a roll. Now they're trying the television version with Netflix here. They weren't too happy with the previous Daredevil where Ben Affleck did the movie. But this coming around, people were like, all right, let's see what they do here. And within that first couple of days, that weekend, it came out. Everyone's like, have you seen Daredevil? When's Season 2? It just came out. You just blew through 13 episodes. You got to wait a year until they can do everything else. But did you expect it to take off so much?
I don't think you can ever expect that. I mean, it was unprecedented. It felt. I mean, certainly, I've not been in anything that's had that kind of immediate response. And it was thrilling. I mean, I remember it's tough because we do our job and we do it to the best of our abilities. But making a television show or a film, there's so many elements. There's so many important elements: the sound and the editing and the color correction and the cinematography and all of that stuff. It has to all come together in order for a show or a film to work. And I remember being in Los Angeles and we were getting ready for the premiere of the first season, and I knew that I always knew the writing was brilliant, just because the scripts were coming in, and I remember we talked about feeling how waiting for the scripts because we were so eager to find out what was going to happen next, which I think is a good sign. I
read something that you had to read a couple of the scripts before you would sign on to the thing, and then after you did, you said this was amazing. I'll do this part.
Yeah. So when I knew that they were interested in me for this part, I went to the Disney building in London, and I sat in a room with a gentleman whose job it was to watch me read them, make sure
you didn't take any photos, you didn't rip out a page.
Yeah. And I read the scripts and I left the building and I emailed my agents and said, this is really brilliant. I'll play any part in this. And then but I want to play Matt Murdock.
How nerve-wracking is it if you're in the room and there's a guy just staring at you intently, just watching to make sure you don't touch that thing?
Yeah, it's kind of awkward because you feel like you start to believe that he's in on the experience.
Right.
So like you kind of read something funny and you go and you look up and laugh, and he of course doesn't know what you're laughing about. And so it's a weird moment in time.
He's just there to break your bones if you rip a page or you pull out that cell phone.
Yeah, and every time you go to turn the page, he just kind of tenses a little bit as if he's going to.
Wear the gloves, use the tweezers, so the oils don't get on the page. But Daredevil, I think people. Well, nowadays, whenever something new comes out that it wasn't a mainstream superhero from either Marvel or DC, people are like now more willing to give it a shot because these smaller stories and smaller characters compared to, say, Iron Man, Superman, Spider-Man, things like that, they're now more willing to give it a chance. Like, wow, they're doing that one. I want to see where they go with this. And that Daredevil led this whole revolution now on Netflix and the TV versions that opened the doors for Jessica Jones and for Iron Fist and for The Punisher. You guys are just like paving the way for everything here with this series.
I think we're also not just going after just comic book fans. I mean, obviously we want to please them, but we're also hoping that these are shows that people who were maybe previously not comic readers can enjoy.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard a lot of women during that first season where they're like, oh, it's so dark. It seems very comic booky, and they went in through there, and maybe because they're staring at Charlie, I don't know, but they were just like, this show's amazing. And then girls were talking about watching the show. I'm like, do you know how violent that show is? Like, we love it. It's amazing.
Often it's a lot of girls, a lot of women who kind of come up to me and say they like the show. The bits they reference are like, the D'Onofrio head decapitation,
right?
That kind of stuff.
What did you know when you got cast and going into this? Did you know the comic books, or did you pick them up right as you were going into this series?
I did not.
Yeah, both of us.
Yeah, I did not. I'd never read a Daredevil comic, and so it was. I actually think in the end it was quite a good thing. Really, it was quite helpful because it meant that when I went in that room and I read those scripts, I left there with a sense of who this character was in the scripts, in terms of who they wanted him to be for this show. Because of course the character of Daredevil evolves greatly over from the 1964 to present day. There's very many different reincarnations of him. He's written differently, he's illustrated differently, and so
you're dressed better now.
Yeah, exactly. And the glasses change, and his hair color changes, all that kind of stuff, and so having read the scripts and had that sense, I could then go to the comics, all this wonderful back catalog
as a reference
and find the series, the writers and the illustrators that best represented the show we were trying to make.
How important was it to you to take a look at the comics, get a reference point, like you said, for going into the character, but then pulling away from it so that you could turn it into something of your own, like what you're going to bring to the character, so you're not influenced 100% by what has been written in the past?
Oh, interesting. I don't think that I really did do that. I think that I think once I kind of had a sense of who this character was in the show, and I felt quite confident with that, and comfortable in that, playing Matt in that way. I never stopped reading the comics. I kept going back to them and exploring, different writers and different series and different, times. And I'm able to kind of pick and choose. Or that feels very like the Matt Murdock of this world, and that maybe not so much. I don't feel like it throws me off or anything like that.
I actually feel sort of differently. The Karen in the comic books is almost like she's a different character. It's not even an evolution. She sort of changes so drastically from series to series that I actually felt like I had a lot of freedom, that this Karen Page really could just be mine and the writers and what we wanted to do with her.
I was just about to ask that. You're doing these characters, how where you have to go in the story, and then they give you the outlines and the dialogue. But do they give you any kind of freedom saying like, this doesn't feel like it's working? Do you ever go like, oh, can I try something? And does this fit more me doing this character?
I mean, it's exactly that. It's a collaboration. It's asking. It's saying, can we try something more in this direction? But yeah, I mean, I think we want these to be our versions of the character, inspired certainly heavily by the comic books. And I think Matt Murdock has to be more like the comic books than maybe the rest of us do. But
yeah, I mean, I personally feel like Marvel were incredibly generous with the way that they kind of, handed over the character to me, and they were very vocal about that. Make this guy your own, find your truth with him, and it's always a conversation. There's always something that will come up, and I'll say, is this, as you say, is this something that we could try? Is this something we can do? One of the things I wanted to do last season, it felt like, because of the nature of what was going on in the world of our show, it felt like Matt was very serious a lot of the time. I mean, he had a lot on his mind, and he also had this time on his own where he was plagued by what he was doing, and he was questioning the validity of this vigilante justice that he was engaging in. And for the second season, I wanted to find the wry humor that you see so often in the comics. Even in the face of great adversity, even when everything is going as wrong as it could possibly go in life, sometimes there is still humor in those moments. And this season we've explored that a little more, which has been really fun and a great challenge.
This season also with the addition of John Bernthal for Frank Castle, Punisher. This season starts off very dark and very quick. And I just want to say to people, because we got a chance to see some of the episodes as they came out today, give it some time, because it feels a little different from last season, but when you see where they're going, it's well worth the wait. I think it's not that it's taking too long, it's that there's so much that you're setting up and so much that you're developing that you just got to let it breathe a little bit, and then boom, it kicks in towards the middle to the end of the season. I
agree. I know what you're saying. I think I've seen the first few episodes as well.
I would hope. Yeah.
Well, not always. I mean, Deborah hasn't seen them. Sorry to bring it back to that again. But
I love to tease me about that.
Yeah, I do.
Is that by choice or is that just by availability?
Well, probably both.
Deborah Ann Woll has not found the time in a year to watch. She's been so busy.
Bothered with that.
No, I mean it's just insecurity. I love this job so much, and I love the people that I work with, and the experience that I have on set is so rich, and I'm just unfortunately not capable of watching it with that same, keeping myself open that way. I just am too critical of myself. So I would much rather continue my life thinking, oh my God, that amazing night where Charlie and I found this really incredible moment. I would like that to live in my heart rather than, oh my God, I hate my voice.
I thought it would be great if Disney said, look, no, you're going to have to wait for like everybody else and see what you did.
But we're going to show Charlie everything.
Yeah, he's going to see everything, and he's just going to taunt you during this whole press tour that you have no idea what he's talking about.
No, but I've not seen the whole show. I've seen the first 5 at this point. Yes, no, I think you're right. I think you do. In order for us for the writers to get to the point where the kind of the themes of this series could start to play out. The first couple episodes, you just have to kind of let wash over you a little bit.
Right.
It's a very bold choice, and I actually think it's a brilliant choice, because if you remember the first season, it was a very slow build. Matt and Wilson Fisk, they didn't even speak until episode 6. They didn't meet until episode 9. This series, Matt Murdock and Frank Castle are fighting in the first episode.
Yeah, right out the gate.
Right out the gate, and then once you let those first couple of episodes kind of wash it over you, and you understand what are the themes of this series are going to be, then it really starts to find its rhythm and its pace, and for me, it was around about the 3, 4, 5 where I started to get really kind of engaged in the story.
One of the fun things I find with season 1 and of course season 2 is in season 1, when you're tying into all the other Marvel properties, you guys did it in a way where you made 1 or 2 mentions about the stuff that happened in Avengers in New York, but then, no, that happened last year. We're moving on like it was no big deal. So you acknowledge that there are ties to everything, but you don't need the ties. Like sometimes if they're not confident in a property, they're like, throw the Hulk in there somewhere, or throw Iron Man, or something with Stark Industries in there. Yeah. You made mention that stuff happened in New York because, for those who don't know, Daredevil takes place in the Hell's Kitchen part of New York City. You make mention that something happened, but then you guys go on with the story about what you're doing as a vigilante, superhero, whatever you want to call them, and then the issues with the law firm that you guys are dealing with, which, by the way, the start of season 2, not really a spoiler, but the fact that you guys are working on a barter system shows some humanity. But I've seen, my dad used to do finances, and I'd see him help certain clients who were in bad times. They'd bring in services or goods and stuff. Like there was tons of bread and Italian food, and as soon as I saw the cakes, I'm like, this takes me back to when my dad used to do all that. But it shows some of the humanity of that. You guys were really, outside of the superhero stuff, you're doing the law firm right. You're trying to help people and really stick to being human beings.
Yeah, and I think there's also another element to that, which I think is, I don't know whether it's if it was deliberate or not, but when I was a little boy and I used to pretend, make believe, whatever it was, whether it's a superhero or a sportsman or whatever it is, when you play make believe, one of the things that is most exciting about that is this idea that you're special, that it's you and only you that has this gift, that that can do this or can achieve this or whatever it is. And so by making reference to the other superheroes, but not so much that it kind of means that they're every day in this world, it makes Daredevil, or the Man in Black, the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, however he is referred to in the first series, as kind of this mythical idea, this story that you tell to your kids to frighten them or to excite them, that may or may not be true. And that kind of degree of mysticism is what adds to the tension and the excitement of the show, I think, and superheroes in general.
Tension and excitement. One thing you guys do really well is that even though it's a superhero world, you make it so damn realistic, because there's scenes where just horrible crap happens to you, and the recovery time is not instant or not even sped up like if it was Wolverine or Deadpool. They have that power of healing and regeneration.
No molybdenum, yeah.
You get cut, you get hit, you get shot, somebody hits you with a chain, something like that. Then you're out the rest of the episode. You're sitting at home. Everyone's mad at you because you have all these bruises and they don't know why. Like you're in some kind of abusive relationship. it really brings home the reality is like it's going to take him a while to heal before he goes back out there and does this again. So you're the superhero without the superpowers. Yeah. So it's balancing everything perfectly.
Yeah, it's also helpful. It's also literally helpful for me because I remember last year the fight that we did at the end of throughout the course of episode 9 really took its toll on my body. I was like really banged up and hurt from that, and then I got to spend episode 10 on the couch.
There you go. Yeah. How much of a stunt double do you use?
It depends on the scene. It depends greatly on the scene. So there are certain scenes that I can do a lot of them. A lot of the sequence, particularly ones where I don't have a mask on. Like, so there's a fight I have with Stick in the first season. There's a couple this year as well where I'm not wearing the mask, and so obviously I have to do almost all of that.
Are those hits real when you're using the sticks, or are they adding in effects later on to really give the emphasis of you just got hit with a solid piece of wood?
It depends. I mean, it depends on the camera angles. I mean, obviously they're never hitting me. I'm never being hit or hitting anyone.
We're not literally allowed
tilt.
to beat Charlie Cox up. Like, that's not allowed.
Unless you're late to set one day and then they say lay into him.
Yeah, right. Just right. Last take. Just do everything you need to do. So it depends greatly. I mean, my stunt double Chris Brewster is an extraordinary gymnast, athlete, martial artist. I mean, the stuff that he can do is really extraordinary. And what we tend to do is I'll do a pass of the whole scene, he'll do a pass of the whole scene, and then they'll cut it together and they'll use the best parts and using the close-ups of my face when they need to and all that kind of stuff. Of course, there are things he does that I cannot do. So whenever you see me, Daredevil, jumping doing a 900 flip kick, backflip, whatever they're called.
You're just not trying
That's
hard
not
enough.
me. Yeah.
Well, I've noticed too, watching Brewster, he's clearly been studying Charlie because there'll be moments when he's doing his pass, and I'm like, he like does like a Matt Murdock grimace, or like he's kind of trying.
He moves like me now.
He starts
It's
to
really
move
cool.
like Charlie. Like he's done his homework.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned the crossover stuff, how there's the potential, but it's not necessary, which I think is great. There is one little crossover that's in this season, and it's not really spoiled because it's in the trailer for season 2 of Daredevil. The gang, the Dogs of Hell, were actually in an episode or 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and now they're being featured in Daredevil.
Oh, very cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I did know that.
Oh, that's very cool.
See, you didn't see the episodes, but she knows more than you do.
That's really cool. I had no idea. That's very cool.
Yeah, so but I thought that was interesting because it wasn't enough to make a distraction, I'll say, an impact or distraction, where if it was a bigger
like
villain
Easter
or a bigger
eggs.
hero. Yeah, exactly. It's like an Easter egg, but you're like, wait, I know this.
Yeah.
Oh, they were in the other thing.
I think how fun that must be for the writers, though, that every time they need a name for a gang, they have a whole bag of tricks they can just reach into, and it makes it extra special.
One thing that happened this season I thought was really cool was I did a scene that's coming up a bit later on in the series with Rosario Dawson's character Claire Temple, and when we got to set, she had this. I hadn't seen her in a Matt Murdock had not seen her for a few episodes in the series, and she had this cut under her eye. In the scene, and I asked her what's that cut about, and she said, "Oh, in story terms, this is a couple of days after something that happened in Luke Cage that they were shooting simultaneously."
So you have to incorporate that into what you're doing.
Yeah, so they had to bear in mind that in terms of the dates of everything, she had something happen in one of the episodes of Luke Cage, and a couple of days later in her life, she was having this conversation with me. And I remember thinking, that's one of the cool. That's really really cool. That through line is epic, but then also that's one. I mean, whose job is it to?
I was going to say, thank God for continuity.
I mean,
it's hard enough to figure that on your own.
For scripting.
Deborah, what can you tell me about Karen and her development for this season? Because right off the bat, there, she's really trying to get these two's asses in gear because you guys aren't doing well financially as the story starts, and you're coming off more like, I want to support these guys. Now I'm equal to these guys. Now I got to tell these guys what to do. Like you're the mom, or you're taking over the boss role almost, as far as the law firm's concerned.
Well, they're very distracted. They have a lot of other things going on in their lives, and I think the law firm means everything to Karen. I think it saved her life in many ways. It gave her purpose. It gave her a family, and all she wants is for them to be happy and secure and to do good in the world, and so that the firm really means something to her. And so far, there's nothing else to compete.
Okay. What can you tell me that might have been your favorite thing this season?
Oh, God.
Even if it was an outfit or a prop or something.
Well, no. I mean, I will say this. My favorite part of working on Daredevil is working with Charlie. It's just...
Mine's working with Eldon. I take that back. I don't know.
It just is. I mean, I enjoy him as a friend and as a co-actor. I just feel like we have a very similar idea about how we want to approach the scenes and what acting is, which is something that's a little bit, you can't hold on to it. You have to sort of let it breathe. And there was one great moment. We did a really beautiful scene in the rain, and unfortunately there was an issue with sound, and we had to redo it. And I remember. You always get a little sad about that, a little frustrated about that, because you feel like always the performance in the moment is really good. And so we redid it in a soundstage, but we did it together. And we, were standing in the same positions. And I remember being so grateful that I had a co-actor that would want to recreate the moment so that we could really find that feeling again. And it wasn't going to be dead in some soundstage by ourselves trying to redo it. So that was a favorite moment.
That's really cool. Yeah. It's kind of my answer is kind of the same. One of the things that was most enjoyable for me, for Matt, for me as an actor to play this year, is this this kind of feeling of being pulled in so many different directions. It was so beautifully written. This kind of love triangle, if that is even the right word. I think Matt is, when he is with Karen. What she brings out of him is an aspect of himself which is completely authentic and completely true to who he wants to be and the kind of man he wants to be and the kind of way he wants to live his life. And so he's able to completely be himself with her. However, she doesn't know this great secret, which is kind of a problem, going forward. On the other hand, Elektra comes back into his life, and with Elektra, he's able to completely be Daredevil and not have to hide that from her, and that's a very addictive feeling. That's also something he enjoys immensely. But at the same time, Elektra draws out of him this darkness, or this kind of disregard for the law, or for the respect for other people's property, and this kind of need to destroy things. And I don't think that is quite who Matt is fundamentally,
right? And
so he's torn in these two different directions. And again, the stuff with Elodie certainly, but particularly with Deborah, which we agree upon so many things about how you create a scene, especially on a tight schedule when you're filming a TV show, and that stuff is really the stuff I look forward to the most.
When are you going to find a nice girl, settle down, and can be both people to that one person?
Yeah,
you're making your life more complicated.
Maybe
than it
season
needs
3.
To be. Daredevil season 2 is out now on Netflix. All 13 episodes. You definitely need to go check it out. And if you missed season 1, guess what? That's up there as well. 26 episodes to binge through on a weekend. You can do it. I'm telling you.
You bastard.
Turn off the phone, ignore your family, and go through 2 seasons of Daredevil.
We're your new family.
Right. This is your new family. Charlie is not on social media because he has better things to do. And you don't want. No, I'm saying that in the right way.
I didn't say that.
No, I'm saying that because you don't want to be sucked into it, and I get that.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know really how to have that as be part of my life at this point. Maybe that will change.
Right. But Deborah it's Deborah Ann Woll, WOLL on Twitter and Instagram.
I don't think so.
Oh, then somebody else on the Instagram. Okay.
Someone else runs.
But that's
stuff,
her on Twitter. Say hi to them. Check out Daredevil. Next time you guys are back in New York, there's so much more. I mean, we didn't even talk about True Blood or Boardwalk Empire. A lot to get to.
Or your T-shirt.
That's right.
Do you know what this is?
I don't.
It's a video game called Portal. And this was one of the things in there about the cake being alive.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there was. Do you remember Wesley last year? Toby. He used to play that.
He
all
was
the
a
time.
Portal.
It's an addictive game.
Yeah.
All right. Daredevil season 2 out on Netflix. Guys, thank you so much. When you're back in New York, I'd love to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Thank you.